The flood lasted 40 days on the earth. The waters swelled, lifting the ark until it was raised above the earth. The waters rose and swelled greatly on the earth, and the ark sailed on the waters. The waters rose more and more on the earth, so that all the highest mountains under the whole of heaven were submerged. The waters rose 15 cubits higher, submerging the mountains. And so all things of flesh perished that moved on the earth, birds, cattle, wild beasts, everything that swarms on the earth, and every man. Everything with the breath of life in its nostrils died, everything on dry land. Yahweh destroyed every living thing on the face of the earth, man and animals, reptiles, and the birds of heaven. He rid the earth of them, so that only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. The waters rose on the earth for 150 days. But God had Noah in mind, and all the wild beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark. God sent a wind across the earth, and the waters subsided. The springs of the deep and the sluices of heaven were stopped. Rain ceased to fall from heaven. The waters gradually ebbed from the earth. After 150 days the waters fell, and in the 7th month, on the 17th day of that month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters gradually fell until the 10th month, when, on the 1st day of the 10th month, the mountain peaks appeared. At the end of 40 days Noah opened the porthole he had made in the ark, and he sent out the raven. This went off, and flew back and forth until the waters dried up from the earth. Then he sent the dove to see whether the waters were receding from the surface of the earth. The dove, finding nowhere to perch, returned to the ark, for there was water over the whole surface of the earth. Putting out his hand, he took hold of it and brought it back into the ark with him. After waiting 7 more days, he sent out the dove from the ark. In the evening, the dove came back to him, and there it was, with a new olive branch in its beak. So Noah realized that the waters were receding from the earth. After waiting 7 more days, he sent out the dove, and now it returned to him no more. It was in the 601st year of Noah's life, in the 1st month and on the 1st of the month, that the water dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the hatch of the ark and looked out. The surface of the ground was dry. In the 2nd month, and on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. They disembark. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you, yourself, your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives with you. As for all the animals with you, all things of flesh, whether birds or animals or reptiles that crawl on the earth, bring them out with you. Let them swarm on the earth. Let them be fruitful and multiply on the earth." So Noah went out with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives. And all the wild beasts, all the cattle, all the birds, and all the reptiles that crawl on the earth went out from the ark, one kind after another. Noah built an altar for Yahweh, and choosing from all the clean animals and all the clean birds, he offered burnt offerings on the altar. Yahweh smelt the appeasing fragrance and said to himself, "Never again will I curse the earth because of man, because his heart contrives evil from his infancy. Never again will I strike down every living thing as I have done. As long as earth lasts, sowing and reaping, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall cease no more." The New World Order. God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. Be the terror and dread of all the wild beasts and all the birds of heaven, of everything that crawls on the ground and all the fish of the sea. They are handed over to you. Every living and crawling thing shall provide food for you, no less than the foliage of plants. I give you everything, with this exception. You must not eat flesh with life, that is to say, blood, in it. I will demand an account of your lifeblood. I will demand an account from every beast and from man. I will demand an account of every man's life from his fellow men. He who sheds man's blood shall have his blood shed by man, for in the image of God man was made. As for you, be fruitful, multiply, teem over the earth, and be lord of it. God spoke to Noah and his sons. See, I establish my covenant with you, and with your descendants after you, also with every living creature to be found with you, birds, cattle, and every wild beast with you, everything that came out of the ark, everything that lives on the earth. I establish my covenant with you. No thing of flesh shall be swept away again by the waters of the flood. There shall be no flood to destroy the earth again. God said, Here is a sign of the covenant I make between myself and you, and every living creature with you, for all generations. I set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I gather the clouds over the earth, and the bow appears in the clouds, I will recall the covenant between myself and you, and every living creature of every kind. And so the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all things of flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I shall see it and call to mind the lasting covenant between God and every living creature of every kind that is found on the earth. God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant I have established between myself and every living thing that is found on the earth. From the flood to Abraham. Noah and his sons. The sons of Noah who went out from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the ancestor of the Canaanites. These three were Noah's sons, and from these the whole earth was peopled. Noah, a tiller of the soil, was the first to plant the vine. He drank some of the wine, and while he was drunk, he uncovered himself inside his tent. Ham, Canaan's ancestor, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. Shem and Japheth took a cloak, and they both put it over their shoulders, and walking backwards, covered their father's nakedness. They kept their faces turned away, and did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah awoke from his stupor, he learned what his youngest son had done to him, and he said, Accursed be Canaan! He shall be his brother's meanest slave. He added, Blessed be Yahweh, God of Shem. Let Canaan be his slave. May God extend Japheth. May he live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his slave. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. In all, Noah's life lasted 950 years. Then he died.